The last 25 years had open heart surgery, three times and all that kind of stuff.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's shocking truth about his 3 heart surgeries and steroid use has finally been revealed.
Did you take them?
I took them, yeah, up until the competition.
And it's nothing like what people have assumed for over 2 decades. But you might still be wondering, was it the steroids? Was it his diet? Or was something much bigger going on behind the scenes? Today we're uncovering the true story behind one of bodybuilding's biggest health mysteries. To really understand what affected Arnold's heart, we need to look at more than just the surgeries he had. Arnold's extreme diet. Arnold's diet consisted of 5 to 6 small meals a day, but he supplemented with protein shakes and plenty of vitamins and minerals. Put it all together, and you end up with a grand total of 3,825 calories per day. But it wasn't just about calories. Schwarzenegger ate 3 to 4 eggs every morning, yolks and all. Bacon or sausage were regular components of his breakfast routine. His protein intake was amazing, often exceeding 300 grams daily from sources like steak, chicken, fish, eggs, and protein powder. This was decades before anyone understood optimal protein combination rates or leucine thresholds. The man consumed massive quantities of red meat, often eating steak twice daily. His post-workout meals frequently included large portions of beef or chicken with rice or potatoes. Schwarzenegger and Franco Columbu finished training and headed over to the House of Pies, where they sat down and split an entire cherry pie, showing his approach to nutrition wasn't always textbook perfect. But nutrition was only one part of Arnold's formula. To reach the next level of muscle growth, he also started using drugs that boost muscle growth and strength, a choice that became a big part of what bodybuilding was like in his time. Arnold's complete steroid history. Arnold started taking steroids as a teenager, possibly as young as 15 or 16 years old. He discovered steroid use before the 1967 Mr. Universe competition while researching about the training methods of the East Germans and the Soviets. But here's where it gets interesting. Arnold built his PED regimen around 2 drugs, testosterone and dianabol. He says he takes 100 milligrams of testosterone each week. The combined evidence strongly suggests that Arnold was at minimum using a shot of primobolan per week and 3 to 4 dianabol per day. What's shocking is how relatively modest these doses were compared to what people assume today. Arnold wasn't mega-dosing like some modern bodybuilders. His approach was calculated and strategic, focusing on 2 primary compounds during his competitive years from the late 1960s through 1980. He claims to have cycled them, and probably only did 1 to 2 cycles a year in the beginning. This wasn't year-round abuse, it was regular use aligned with competition preparation. The use of steroids in bodybuilding during the 70s was not illegal.
One of the most common questions I also get is, did we take steroids? Because now, of course, drugs is such a big issue in sports. And the answer is yes. It was just in the beginning stage because bodybuilders in those days just experimented with it, but it was not illegal.
Arnold competed during an era when these substances weren't banned, and their long-term health effects weren't fully understood by the medical community. The heart surgery truth. Now here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Despite everything we just covered about steroids and massive calorie intake, none of this caused Arnold's heart problems. Arnold's heart surgeries have nothing to do with his bodybuilding lifestyle. The real cause is a congenital birth defect called bicuspid aortic valve, where instead of 3 valve leaflets, he was born with only 2. First surgery, April 16, 1997. 20 years after his last Mr. Olympia victory, Arnold underwent his first major heart surgery. The procedure was a Ross operation, where surgeons removed his defective aortic valve and replaced it with his own pulmonary valve, then replaced the pulmonary valve with a donor valve. Arnold chose this complex procedure over a simple mechanical valve replacement because he wanted to maintain his active lifestyle without requiring lifelong blood thinners that mechanical valves demand. Second surgery, March 2018. Arnold went to Cedars-Sinai for a normal heart valve surgery, but complications arose during the procedure. In Arnold's own words, he was in the middle of a disaster. The surgery that was supposed to take a few hours stretched much longer as doctors dealt with unexpected challenges. This wasn't lifestyle-related collapse. This was the natural progression of managing a congenital heart defect over 2 decades. Third surgery, October 2020. 2 years later, Arnold needed his aortic valve replaced. Again, this timing had nothing to do with steroid use from 40 years earlier or his training intensity. The Ross procedure had given him exactly the lifespan doctors predicted, about 20 to 23 years. Pacemaker procedure, March 2024. Arnold's most recent procedure involved getting a pacemaker.
Last Monday, I had surgery for a pacemaker and became a little bit more of a machine. I have to tell you, just saying this to all of you, goes against so much of my upbringing in Austria, where nobody ever talked about medical issues. I want you to know I'm doing great.
Scar tissue from his previous surgeries was interfering with his heart's electrical signals, causing irregular rhythms. The pacemaker helps regulate his heartbeat. Why steroids didn't cause this? Here's the crucial medical distinction everyone misses. Anabolic steroids can potentially cause cardiovascular problems, but they create entirely different issues than what Arnold experienced. Steroid-related heart problems typically involve coronary artery disease, left ventricular hypertrophy, or heart attacks. Arnold's problems were purely structural, faulty valves he was born with. When Arnold's representatives addressed the steroid speculation after his 2018 surgery, they stated clearly, "Steroids have nothing to do with this. This is a congenital condition that's existed in his family." The timeline proves this point. Arnold's bicuspid aortic valve required surgical intervention based on the natural deterioration schedule for this birth defect, not based on anything he did to his body. Family history. Arnold inherited this condition from his mother's side.
It's a congenital thing from my mother. She had it from her mother and all that stuff.
His mother also had significant heart problems.
Yeah, my mother had a valve problem, and she died with the age of 67. And so they said, well, it's obviously something that is being passed down. I said, Arnold, you better get your heart checked regularly because this could also happen to you.
This wasn't damage from lifestyle choices. This was genetic destiny written into his DNA before he was even born. Bicuspid aortic valve affects about 1% of the population. It's completely unrelated to diet, exercise, or steroid use. People with desk jobs who never exercised a day in their lives require the same surgeries Arnold needed. Arnold's training and health now. As soon as I was finished with competition in 1975 and then in 1980, I dropped the whole idea of heavy lifting completely and just did more reps. Arnold adapted his training style decades before his heart problems became serious. Today, he continues exercising but focuses on cardiovascular health, lighter weights, and higher repetitions. His fitness approach prioritizes heart health and longevity over maximum muscle mass. Genetics versus lifestyle. Arnold Schwarzenegger's story teaches us a crucial lesson about medical assumptions versus medical facts. His 7 Mr. Olympia titles, his steroid use, his extreme diet, and his legendary training intensity make for a compelling narrative when connected to heart problems. But correlation isn't causation. Arnold's heart surgeries were unavoidable from the day he was born with a bicuspid aortic valve. Whether he became a bodybuilder or an accountant, he would have needed the same surgical interventions. This doesn't mean steroids are harmless, they carry real cardiovascular risks. But in Arnold's specific case, they played no role in his heart surgeries. The medical evidence is clear, the timing is consistent with congenital valve disease progression, and Arnold's own medical team has confirmed this repeatedly. Sometimes the most shocking truth is that the obvious explanation is wrong, and the real answer is much simpler than the speculation.